Well, I was originally only supposed to be taking a, you know, 10-minute break from doing these videos, and I was still going to be doing them over the holidays, and now it's February, and I haven't done one since I November, and I am so sorry. All the time I use the excuse of, "I haven't put on makeup, I look awful today." January was a crazy month with the LA fires and everything of that nature. So I literally was like, I'm just going to hop on and I'm just going to do this because I have been wanting to talk. This is kind of a two-parter of the river cruise that I went on in November for Thanksgiving. So this episode is going to be a comparison of AmaWaterways and biking on the Danube. So I have actually done both the same direction, like 2 or 3 different locations, I will say that, and then my next one, next week or the week after, I make no promises, will be on traveling solo and what experience that was like as a river cruise person. So, basically, what I'm gonna say is I was doing both of these cruises in November, about 2 years apart. So it's a similar experience. And I wanted to do this comparison to make sure that you could understand what was the right fit for you. And I will have my personal opinion, but I want to make sure that it's known crystal clear before we start. Both experiences are great. You go on a Viking river cruise, you go on an AmaWaterways cruise, you go on Scenic, Emerald, Uniworld, Riverside. There are so many river cruise companies that you guys might not know about that are amazing. So I just want to start out by saying that. All right. So let's talk about the ship and the onboard experience. So all the ships on the rivers are the same size because they have to be to get through the locks. I'm going to use the generic size, which is what's going to be used for the Danube and the Rhine. Like, for example, the Seine, which goes through Paris, is smaller because of what's required for that river. And same with Portugal. And you'll kind of see that in different areas. So I'm not going to, those are not part of this example, but just know that this is kind of like that summarization, right? But for the most part, they're all the same size. They might be built a little differently. They might have all these other things, but we're going to be comparing like apples to apples in terms of that. And with that, biking will have 190 people on board. I will say that they have heated bathroom floors, which is amazing. I literally, my friend and I had those turned up to like the hottest it would go. And it was so fun to have them on our little beatsies at the end of the day because, yeah. Another thing that I kind of wanted to point out, and this is one of those small things where it reminds me of when I picked my college. I did one of my pros and cons was one served Pepsi and one served Coke, and that was one of my deciding factors. Let's not go there. But Viking actually did sodas out of glass bottles versus to do drinks, and then the dining spaces. So there's one less dining spot on the Viking than there was on AmaWaterways. AmaWaterways actually has a chef's table, which is included in at least one night for every person. And it's a super fun experience where you get a 7-course meal and you get to kind of experience all the different things. It changes every night. You watch the chef make the meal, he serves it. It's a lot of fun and it's a smaller lounge. So because of the fact that you have more rooms, you are kind of missing out on some of those things. And then when you go to AmaWaterways is a smaller passenger count. It's on average 150 to 160 people on board, unless you're doing their Ama Magna, which is actually going to be the size of 2 river cruises. So it's got a big butt. It's the size of 2 river cruises, but that one is actually limited to where it can go because it can't get through certain canals. The room sizes are a little bigger, to be truthfully honest. If you look online and you do the square footage, the rooms are bigger. So you get a little bit of extra square footage, and 20 square feet can make the difference in a trip. They do have a couple of more diverse amenities. So as we talked about, you have the chef's table, and then so Viking doesn't have any of the extra things on board. So if you go up to the top deck, it is just a walking track. It has some seats and everything of that nature, but it doesn't have anything extra on it. Whereas AmaWaterways has heated pool as well as the walking track. It looked like I was in the winter, but it had seats in the pool and a bar. So I was just imagining my mom having a drink as we were sailing through the Rhine Gorge, and it just sounded like the perfect sort of experience. On my trip, everyone thought I was crazy for going into the water, but it was heated. So I thought I was perfectly fine. And then on top of that, there were more snacks and meals, which sounds weird. So when I was on my Viking trip, one of the things I noticed was that there just wasn't a lot of snack options. So you had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the only thing they offered in between then was, just a small cookie selection. And if you woke up too early or if you wanted to stay up too late, they didn't have anything for you. On AmaWaterways, they have a breakfast buffet that opens at 6 a.m. And I went to it because I was up for one silly reason. And I was surprised at how much food they had there. They had a full, they had eggs, bacon, sausage. They had more than I was expecting to for the quick snacks that it was supposed to be. And then every night they have a late night where after they do all of their activities for the day, it's at like 10:30, 11 p.m. They do a specialized snack based on the region. So they had kebabs, they had other things, schnitzel. I did not go. I was asleep, but I know a lot of people who went and thought it was amazing. So those are some of those things that are just those high level ones that I noticed in terms of the ship and what you're getting. Another thing with AmaWaterways is they have a gym and they have a massage and hair salon on board. And as my mom wants me to point out, they do have a tiny gift shop that she spent $200 on from across the pond. We did FaceTime each other and it was a Christmas present, but that's besides the point. And so those are just some of those things that because they don't have as many people on board, they have a little of those extra things. I will say that I was surprised on how well the massages were priced. It was 70 euros, but 75-ish US dollars just with how the conversion is for an hour. I was shocked. I only did it on the last day. I could have done it every day because I thought it was an amazing price for what you're getting. So if we transition to like the food and the drink on board, so one of the things that comes up is, what's included and what's not. So on Viking and AmaWaterways, what is included is wine and beer at lunch and dinner. And then AmaWaterways also does happy hour. So the hour before dinner, when they have everyone come on and the tour director is giving an overview of the next day or highlighting some of those things, on Viking, you have to pay for your drinks. On AmaWaterways, it's included. So those are just a small differences. Another thing that was brought up is that Viking has the same wine selection throughout the entire cruise. So the 4 free wines that are included the first night are going to be throughout the entire 7 days. Where AmaWaterways does regional wines that are updated daily. And there's some really proud of their wines because every night they will come out and they will give you the whole spiel on how we passed that winery, 45 minutes ago. And, that's why we're doing it. And it pairs well with our dinner. And so those are just those like small touches that you don't notice until you've actually been on both. I will say that, the food, they're both pretty similar and both really great qualities. Viking had a less like Vikings food was more catered to the American, right? So they had their everyday menu and then they had, the regional. I felt like AmaWaterways went a little bit more different or exciting with their regional, which I always didn't like because I am also a steak and potatoes girl, and I ordered ribeye steak more than half of the days on the cruise. But I did try some other things as well. Okay. Just want to point that out for everyone. And then when it comes to excursions, this is where you're going to see a difference as well. So Viking includes an entry level tour. So in every single stop that you go, you're going to get an entry level tour onto what this location is. So, like, if you're gonna go to Budapest, it's gonna be an introductory tour, you're gonna see what's going on, and it's gonna be about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then excursions like to Salzburg or any of those specialty tours are gonna come at an additional cost. So, for example, on AmaWaterways, we were able to go to Salzburg for included into the price, and that would have cost about $250 on Viking. So if you are someone who wants to just do an hour, hour and a half tour and explore for the rest of the day, Viking is 100% your brand because they have a great value when you get on. Like, the price of the cruise is gonna be much more affordable because you're not getting these extras, and that's perfectly fine because if you're not gonna use them, there's no point in doing them. So, I just wanna say that on that front because I have clients who love Viking because they want to just do, like, an hour and a half, 2-hour tour to kinda get a handle on the city. They'll talk to the tour guide on the best next stop to go. They will kinda do that stuff, and then they love to be on their own. So if that is what you wanna do, I definitely recommend that Viking trip for you. And so with AmaWaterways, they have multiple options. So they usually have 2 or 3 options in the morning, and then they even have afternoon tours that are included. So 95% of all excursions are included on an AmaWaterways cruise, and the only ones that aren't was there was 1 excursion on our cruise that was not included, and that was a Mozart concert, which I wasn't interested in. I went to the Christmas markets and went shopping instead. So you have the option to do or not do that. But we were able to do fun ones, like even if we did the introduction to a city, which is they still do those, they'll have a little bit of a difference. Like ours was like, the taste of Bavaria. So we went, as well as doing a tour of the city, we went to a beer spot, we tried pretzels, we went to these famous cookies that were there, and kinda just got, like, a good overview of the area, and then in the afternoon, we went to an exclusive Christmas market where it actually it costs money to get into the Christmas market, and it's at the grounds of of a palace. So you learn the history of the palace, you kinda get that sort of thing, and then you get to kinda explore as well as doing the Christmas markets there for a Christmas market cruise. And I will say, AmaWaterways does an amazing job with Christmas markets. The ship is completely decked out, and they do a bunch of surprise and delights along the way. So, for example, on one of the days, they celebrate St. Nicholas Day, so you leave out a shoe in front of your room, and if you've been good, you get chocolate, and if you've been bad, you get coal. I got coal. No, I'm kidding. So, but also the entire ship is decked out. They have a huge, like, wreath it on every single room, and they play all different kinds of things. We decorated the Christmas trees on the first night. Staff's sang Christmas carols, and Santa even showed up and gave out presents. I have photos of me sitting on Santa's lap. Of course I do. But that's just specifically for the Christmas market, so don't get yourself too excited. So they just have those immersive, like, cultural activities as well. So, just wanna throw that out there. But Viking and AmaWaterways will also have people come on board because when we were on our Viking ship, they had a lovely, musician come on board and kind of do that sort of thing. Same with AmaWaterways. They had a Hungarian dance troupe that came on board and did a whole little presentation. So you definitely just want to know kind of what you're looking for. But, as we're talking about these little extras, it is not free and it does cost extra. So when you're looking at that, just be understanding of that when you're looking at the budget. So in terms, sort of that personalized service, both lines are gonna do amazing in that aspect. They are both wanting to give you the best service when you get on board, but when it comes to the pre-service, Viking has a very strict policy for payment. So they have a decent, like, $25 down, but your final payment will be due probably within 90 days of your first payment, if not sooner, depending on when the cruise starts. So be prepared for that when you see it because they don't allow for like So I have clients who have booked a trip for 2026 and they have already paid the full amount to Viking. So that is what I'm talking about, where it could be a year out and you have already completely paid for your river cruise. Some of you, you're thinking that is perfect. I don't have to think about it anymore. It's in my budget. So by the time I go, it's free. I get you and I love you. But so with AmaWaterways, you have up until 90 days before the sailing to make payments. So if something like making payments is important to you, I would also recommend AmaWaterways. There are a bunch of other lines, and I will be going on them this year. I'm going on Riverside, and I'm going on the Rhone, which is in France. We are taking a group, and we're going to be doing the Rhone River, and then we're going to be doing 3 days in Paris afterwards. And I am so excited. It's going to be an amazing adventure. So, and then I'm also doing Uniworld, and we're going to be doing Egypt. I just booked the flights for that, so I should remember. We're doing Egypt for New Year's. New Year, New Nile is kind of what New Year's on the Nile. I don't know. New Year's on the Nile makes it sound like I'm going to be in a murder mystery. So I don't know if I want to go full out for that title, but that is what I am thinking. And Uniworld is also an amazing brand, and they are known for doing like boutique hotel on a cruise ship. So they're very much I should say it's just absolutely gaudy and over the top in the place, but also all of the excursions are included, and you even have unlimited drinks throughout the entire trip, not just at lunch and dinner and at the happy hour. So again, I will be going through these as we move forward throughout the months and the year, kind of highlighting those differences because as I said, I'm doing Riverside, and Riverside is a 6-star luxury cruise line. It is top of the line. They have butlers for every person, and you can literally have them serve you caviar in your room for breakfast. I don't know if I'm that fancy for the caviar, but for the butler, absolutely. And their entry level room on the Rhone and the Rhine is going to be a French balcony. And so, an absolutely amazing experience if anyone is interested in that. Just an overall comparison as I kind of wrap this up is Viking is going to be for someone who really wants an introduction into river cruising. They want to be able to have the freedom to explore without knowing that they're not going to get something they paid for. It is a great experience and you will have an amazing time. You do have to be aware of the payment structure. So you do have that early payment date unless there is a special promotion that's going on, which it's so random and rare that I don't know when it is. They do have deals that go on throughout the year if you're willing to do more of a last minute travel, and that can include free air, a free drinks program, and things of that nature. So if you are willing to be flexible or book last minute, it's definitely going to be an amazing value. And then AmaWaterways it stands out for its inclusivity. I'm gonna say what I call it is like quiet luxury. So it's those people who want to have those extra special touches, but they don't want it to be like obnoxious or ostentatious. They're looking for somewhere where they can just relax. It feels homey, but you're still getting a good value and a great like product. And they have just those thoughtful touches as we talked about in the trip. So, with that, I just want to say that I am so excited to be back on here. I'm hoping next time I don't look like a drowned rat, but that is a whole different thing. As we talked about, I will do these comparisons even without going on the ships because I have been doing so much research on all these river cruise lines because I want to make sure that I can give you the best value for your money. And that doesn't include always doing the best price or the most inexpensive, but I want to make sure you're getting the best value for it. So if we're talking about inclusions, I just see Winston-Salem in the background. If we're talking about the inclusions that are included, if we're talking about whatever. So I just want to make sure that you know that I am always on your side and I want to make sure that you're getting that best value. And so if you have any questions or anything that you specifically want to hear next, please let me know and I will do research on it or we can talk about it because I didn't even get into like all of the ports that I went to. So next time we'll talk about going solo and what that looks like and how I felt, what was, the extra inclusions for that. And then we can start going through some of the ports that I went to, my favorite things that I did, and just some history about the areas. So with that, I will let you go. Thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to DM me or, scream it from the rooftops. I'm sure I'll hear it. All right. Poodle out.